What were the overall challenges that you think a man wouldn't have faced?
What were the overall challenges as a woman? I would say I didn't feel my challenges were uniquely of what women face because business is very gender neutral, or they don't care how you look, what language you speak. If your products are good, you sell them at lower cost, and it is a hot market, people are going to buy the product.
A higher standard of home is taking shape. Welcome to Ruurka Homes at the Lakes, where timeless architecture meets contemporary living, expansive kitchens, sunlit great rooms, refined formal spaces balanced with everyday comfort, designed for how families gather, work and grow. Built with passion, defined by precision, elevated with lasting quality. Ruurka Homes at the Lakes in Mountain House. Passion, precision, prestige, building trust, one home at a time.
Hello everyone, we have Vinita D. Gupta, the first woman of Indian origin to take a company public in the United States to list it on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. Welcome to Yo India TV with me, Jasleen Khanuja. First of all, how is the feel here at ICC at your wonderful book signing?
I am glad to be talking to your audience. It is always with warmth that I connect with Indian audience, and I am raised and born in India. ICC has been something very close to my heart for many decades. It is a place where we have, which we call home away from home. So community here has been very supportive. Thank you.
Wonderful. So let's get back to this wonderful experience of ringing the Nasdaq bell. I know it's a big thing and a lot of people post it on LinkedIn lately, I have seen. But back in the day when you did it, let's start with how was your experience at the Nasdaq?
I was not there at NASDAQ. I was going to my office that morning when the company went public. Even the employees did not exactly know what was happening because I did not know. CEOs didn't go to NASDAQ to ring the bell. So it was a joyous moment for sure, proud moment for sure, because I'd struggled for 9 years before the company went public. So I think everything was falling in place, and we celebrated it in a very benign way, but very joyous inside. But isn't that Indian nature? Not to be too externally vibrant, but internally happy about things.
I wanted to be the next Cisco because we were small. They started the same time. It was like, how can they be so big and I'm not so big?
Tell me a little more about your company and the success story.
Okay. I am an engineer, and I came to the US almost 50 years back and for higher education, and then I started working for companies, and then I launched a company of my own, and I was running the company as founder and CEO of the company and took it public in the US.
So give us like the name of your company and some more insights into the business.
Yeah. So the company was called Digital Inc. Corporation, and it was formulated advent of internet, when internet was about to come about, and I am a technologist in telecommunication space, so we could see it coming. So our product fitted right into that market, and that is what enabled me to attract investments from the VCs first, and to then grow the company and be able to take it public.
First 5 years were so difficult. My partner quit in me and it was devastating. Then I had to figure out how to hire people with less money, no benefits, and that they will do the job, and they will do one, not just one job, but many jobs. I mean, in a startup, a lot of people here are entrepreneurs. In a startup, you hire multifaceted people, not just a unidimensional researcher. Not to put anything against the researchers, but you have to be pragmatic, and so I had to figure that. Then came the challenge of hiring executives. I had never been an executive. I didn't know what they smelled like. And I had to hire them and keep them and manage them and make them feel good about it. So figuring out all these things was a leadership challenge for me.
Currently, how is the company doing? Who are your primary competitors?
Okay, so my company was formulated in 1985, and we do not have that company in existence. Most of the companies, high technologies companies, either get sold, merge, or fold. And because of the downturn in the internet market, I had to decide, unfortunately, to fold the company. So it doesn't exist anymore.
To just say that I felt like a failure doesn't do justice to it. I was devastated by that. So you go through all the highs and then you go through a deep dive, and that's what shaped me. So how did that, if I look back, that time I didn't think it was going to shape me, but it did. I became totally fearless animal. I am a fearless animal. I think people kind of say, they said you're strong. I'm not strong, I'm fearless. Because having going to company for 4 years, 2000 the internet market started collapsing. And for next 4 years, every morning I walked into the company with my head high, doing layoffs after layoffs, shedding tears with my employees. So it was like, what do? You do what it takes. So that's what I ended up doing, and that shaped me, and then I could walk anywhere, and we'll talk about a big story later on. But the main thing is that as a result of that, I sit now on 6 not-for-profit boards.
So, to the current people in telecom, how do you see the industry and what is your message to them?
The industry constantly evolves. The technology constantly evolves. The trends of people, what they get, their degrees constantly evolve. And I'll address the last one first. For example, I was a hardware electrical engineer. When I was a hardware electrical engineer practicing engineering, a wave of software engineering came when that became the in thing. And now, 40 years forward, hardware is getting back in. So technology evolves, erupts in a different way, or sometimes goes back to where it was, not in terms of exactly the same footprint, but the fashions change. Like any other industry, it's trendy. People do certain things, open a lot of companies these days in AI. That time people were opening a lot of companies in internet space or .com space. So things evolve. There is a lot of bloodbath. but eventually the dust settles and the valley, Silicon Valley, keeps getting better and better with every brush fire.
So, as a woman, in the overall journey, what were the overall challenges that you think a man wouldn't have faced?
What were the overall challenges as a woman? I would say I didn't feel my challenges were uniquely of what women face, because business is very gender neutral, or they don't care how you look, what language you speak. If your products are good, you sell them at lower cost, and it is a hot market, people are going to buy the product. So I never felt that I was being discriminated by anybody.
I just did not ever think that I was different. I want to say that once I started my company, everything looks easier. Why? Because it's all, everybody follows money. If they can make a buck out of my product, they will sell my product. If an investor thinks that they can make money out of me, they will invest in me. So I never thought that I was being discriminated at all.
So, with the evolving times, with the policies changing, with women also progressing way forward, and overall, when the risk situation has varied by the times, when you started and when you were the CEO, the risk situation here in US for your industrial sector was very different than it is now. How do you define your risk-taking tendencies? Are you risk averse, or are you like high on taking risks? What's your risk profile, and what's your suggestion to the people out now?
So, risk taking, just starting a company is a huge risk. Nobody in their right mind would do it if they were doing to make money, because very few companies make money, very few founders make money, and you have lots to lose. So there is a downside to it. It's not like you do it and if it doesn't work out, you can do something else. You have sacrificed your career path, if nothing else, in order to start a company. So my risk-taking profile as a woman, this is where I would differentiate, is very high. But in general, men take more risks than women. They get more, they start more companies, they attract more venture money, because venture money also encourages risk-taking. And women, I think, in general take less risk. I was probably amongst entrepreneur middle of the road.
From the time Digital Link chapter was over to the time when I started playing competitive bridge, 7 years or so went by, and it took another 3-4 years before I won a bridge championship. So it was a long journey. It wasn't easy. It was gritty. I say gritty, and it was the right thing for me, because other things I tried did not work out for me. One thing about bridges, it's highly competitive. Your opponent is only 1 foot here and 1 foot here. So you want to creep them. That is the only goal. And you have 7 minutes in each hand to do that. And in a tournament, you play 500 hands. So you have a lot of opportunities that you miss, but you also have opportunities where you can prove yourself. So it has been an exhilarating, competitive, combative. All of those aspects of my life have come together with bridge.
So this wonderful book that you wrote, The Woman Indeed, which describes your journey, and people can get some takeaways by reading your biography. What are the primary focus areas from the book that you would like people to specially read through and benefit?
I think it is a memoir and it wasn't positioned to do one thing or the other. It was just the journey of my life, of 50 years in India and about 10 years 50 years in the US and 10 years in India. It's that journey that I have covered in the book. And there are a lot of takeaways from it because I tried to be as honest as I could be in my description, in my feelings, and in my reflections. And that is where people get the most value depending upon what you are attempting to do at this point. I think women will benefit, but so will men by reading this book.
I started writing every month religiously. I had not missed a month. Even though I had once a scooter accident, I didn't miss a month to write and had a brain injury. I still wrote article every month since 2016, once I started. So I was developing the muscles of writing. So every skill, and this part of is not even in my memoir. I talk about three things in the memoir. One is my entrepreneurial journey, my loving and tough partner, Naren, and the third was bridge. I don't even write about my writing journey. And finally, I found the time after playing bridge, after doing this, and it seemed like now or never.
From New India TV, and I'm really appreciative of what you have achieved as an Indian American woman in US. So big round of applause again for Vinita Study. So in your impressive journey, from getting through the challenges as a CEO to ringing the NASDAQ bell, I will come back to some of the problems that Indian American people are having right now, and probably they are expecting some Indian American CEOs to step up and help them. I'm really referring to the immigration situation for some of the people here. People into medical device testing and all, who are having actual challenges. And what is your take on the situation first of all, and what is your advice to them?
I always think in terms of what is my contribution to America. I live in this country. This country has provided me opportunities. This is where I made my life, and it has given me new ways of thinking. I appreciate the culture of this country. Of course, every culture has problems. So I do know that Indian culture has problems and this culture has problems here. Why don't we raise our voices, or why don't we speak up, is one of your questions. I think we have to speak up, but sensibly, respecting the country we belong to. Also, I think in terms of if foreigners went to India, how would India and Indians treat them? They might be outwardly very hospitable, but that doesn't mean they embrace them. I think after 50 years, I feel America has embraced me. And I think there has to be some appreciation for that. And I would also say that before Prime Minister Modi, I don't think anybody thought we contributed too much towards India. Prime Minister Modi is the only one who I heard say that he associates with what were the sentiments of people when they came here. We were lonely. We were nomads. We were not recognized as an elite class. we all sitting in this room, we resurrected ourselves and this country gave us the opportunity. So I don't want to come across as spineless, that we cannot speak, but sensible. We have to do things in a sensible way. When we say something, we will be heard.
So, last but not the least, what's your message to all the viewers of Yo India TV who see you as an inspiration?
You know, like somebody, like something about somebody, but don't get too carried away by any one soul. I think they should just see what is there in the book for them and just pick up those nuggets. It's not necessary to absorb everything. Just if you can take two good takeaways from my book, I think you'll make me very happy about it.
Thank you so much, and really loved it. And do get it, your copy of the book. It's available on the Amazon. Thank you so much.